You need to know this: do not give up on your legal status. Many people fail to respond to RFE or file an application before the deadline. This is why we offer a strategy session for 15 minutes at no cost to you. Not everyone qualifies. First, you need to speak with our CARES team. We receive many requests, so we recommend you answer a few questions on our website, greencardguys.com. Our mission is to help people live and work in America legally. Go ahead and subscribe below and follow and share. Talk to you soon. In this video, you need to watch this. If you have an interview coming up for your green card and you might not know what to do, or you think you know what you're doing, but you really don't. All right, so watch all the way to the end of this video and you'll get some tips. Of course, there's a lot more I can share, but this is what I can do in a live show. All right, so let's get down to it. My name is John Ting. I practice immigration law in all 50 states in America and across the world, helping you solve your immigration problem or maybe preventing it from happening in the first place. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of freaking legal problems and specifically immigration problems that could have been prevented, really. So that's one of the main reasons I'm on I go live if I can every weekday. I want to go on the weekend, hang out with you guys, but my family would not let that happen. So gotta give myself a break, spend time with family. So today's topic is how to ace your marriage green card interview like a pro. All right. So this is not exclusive. This is on social media. You're welcome to watch this again and again. But keep in mind, this is not all the questions or things to consider. This is just a snippet overview. Okay. So almost every day we have someone that we prepare. In fact, because we're on YouTube and use technology like this, we've recorded videos to prepare clients before the interview happens, right? So it can save time from just waiting to see when the attorney on our team is available, really. And you can watch it any time of day. So that's one of the benefits of hiring our team, is having these videos available to y'all. So, but at the same time, we also offer another benefit, is that even after you watch all those videos, you can schedule a meeting with us, okay? Because there could be some follow-up questions. So I just had one earlier today. It was for someone, a client who is about to have an interview in Japan in a week or so. And you know how the U.S. government treats people from other countries. It's different. It's not the same across the world. So if you are a person who has filed from the Middle East, especially the Middle East, or from or have a case, maybe you're not from Poland, but maybe a Russian national that had an interview or trying to have it scheduled in Poland. Yeah, there's just a lot of delays related to people who are from the Middle East, for Russian nationals, and also from Nigeria and Manila, Philippines. The list goes on and on, but it is not for everywhere across the world. So we're right here with y'all, which is trying to guide you in the proper direction if possible. So even if you ace your interview, that doesn't mean you're going to get the visa tomorrow. Okay, so just know that you need to have. Not trying to give you a hard time, but y'all need to have better expectations on what to expect as a next step, because this thing is stressful. Trying to get legal status. So that's why we share with our clients, like I did this morning, is that we're on standby. Although, like, that client's in Japan, we won't be checking our email like 1 a.m, but the following morning we're ready to make sure we can answer any questions in case something bad happens. We're right there with you, okay? Any way that we can, even though we're not physically there. Which, by the way, folks, one of the things here, this should go without saying, but if you're in the United States, if both of you are in the United States, both of you need to show up, okay? So because you can get residency while you're in the United States, or you could also get it when you're abroad. So everyone's scenario is a bit different, and what you can and the preparation is slightly different. But if you have the beneficiary foreign nationals outside the United States, we call that consular processing. And when you have a consular processing case, there is no requirement that the U.S. Citizen or permanent resident sponsor have to show up. In fact, we've had clients that say, I really want to go, I really want to go. But we tell them, look, you can try to go and support your spouse, but ultimately they just don't let people in. And I think part of it is because they're really trying to speed through these interviews, at least outside America. Um, and I know it's weird that you can have a quick interview, 5-10 minutes abroad, and then you have a delay of 6+ months. You're like, what the hell just happened? But anyway, let's go to the topic of today: how to ace your marriage green card interview. So I'll try to work backwards, okay? In the sense that, number one, you need to be, well, I guess I won't go backwards. I'll share what I shared earlier today with the client is you need to be calm. You don't want to talk as fast as I do, okay, on social media. You need to be calm. You need to be collected. You need to be confident. And I say one way to be confident, I feel like a coach in a way. But have you noticed a difference that when you're like, I'm standing up, right? But when you're sitting up versus slouching and you start talking, you're going to be able to convey what you say more confidently when you're sitting up straight. So this is not even like, this is not even legal advice, but it certainly helps because look, all your evidence, you should have already provided sufficient evidence anyway in the file. And so these officers from the State Department or USCIS, they have a couple things to rely on. Number one, the forms and evidence, right? You answer those questions, but also in-person interaction. So to be honest, I kind of wonder how USCIS is able to approve or deny someone when there's no interview, right? But hey, it's great that a lot of clients are getting interviews waived, but at the same time, you need to be mindful that when you do have an interview, it's not a bad thing. But when an officer interviews you, they're trying to gauge how you're reacting, your like facial reactions, right? So don't be shy, because being shy, unfortunately, could seem like you're not sharing all the information that you need to be. So you just need to be confident, okay? That's number one tip right there. Number two, knowing if you need to complete your medical exam and biometrics before the interview. Not every country requires that, okay? Biometrics before the interview, but you need to get that completed. So as soon as your interview is scheduled, like if you get, and this tip right here is specific to people who are abroad, okay? Because for people who are in the States, you would have already provided the medical exam, most likely through like at your initial filing when you filed it at the first place, or they sent you like an RFE or a courtesy notice to bring it to the interview itself in the States. But if you're abroad, okay, you need to do biometrics. As soon as you receive the interview date via email, you need to do your biometrics and also medical exam. Okay. And yes, I know this is a sensitive topic for a lot of people, but the COVID-19 vaccine, the US government requires it because it's on a CDC list. Okay. So if you don't want to do that, then just know that they're going to tell you, then you can apply for 601. But I hate to say, if you are so adamant on not taking the COVID-19 vaccine, for whatever it's worth, you should know this. It could take another 6 months to a year to receive a decision on that. Okay. So just trying to prevent some frustration and stress, but not telling you that you have to take the vaccine. That's your choice. That's your personal choice. But yeah, you should just know, because not like some people might incorrectly assume, oh, they just want me to fill out this form and pay like $900 something for me to tell you like why I don't want to take the exam. Why can't I just tell you in person, right? No, it's because there's a process. Unfortunately, there's a long process for these applications. Unfortunately, it's not a easy button. I wish that was the case. All right. Number three, third tip here. I'll try to think of a tip in general. Okay. Now, if it's a marriage case, whew, you want to be as authentic as possible. Be yourself, right? Be yourself. Don't try to pretend to be someone else. And it's not like identity wise, but this helps with really tip number one to be confident. Um, but yeah, be yourself because you want to be natural, right? If I were an officer, I'd be looking at how you interact with each other. Okay. If you're sitting next to each other, like looking straight at me, or you sitting angled away from each other, then it looks like something's going on, right? Are you guys like legit together? You guys aren't really like, you don't have to be like kissing each other at the interview. Not saying that. I actually don't recommend that. Um, because officers just want to get it going, just get the interview over with. Um, but yeah, just be mindful of that, okay? Um, being natural. And not saying that you have to hold each other's hands the entire time. But yeah, well, hopefully your natural behavior is not sitting angled away from each other, but I guess to each your own, I suppose. By the way, we do offer a strategy session for 15 minutes at no cost to you, just to point you in the right direction. Now, things that I share on social media here, it's not like that necessarily always on the consultation or strategy session. The strategy session is really quick, making sure that you're number one eligible for what you're applying for. So even people who ask us to file a mandamus lawsuit, we appreciate it. We appreciate your trust and your questions, but we also try to do a preliminary review of your eligibility, as meaning should you have even filed the application to begin with? Because it would really be bad if we file a lawsuit on your behalf, and then the USA assistant U.S. attorney says, the consulate or USCIS got back to it and said, you weren't even eligible in the first place. We don't want to waste y'all's money on that. And I know some of y'all hire some professional, notary, person in the community, Uncle Bob, Aunt Sally to help you. Um, yeah, you just got to make sure. Okay. So that's why we like to do that extra due diligence for y'all. Let's see here. So, at least another tip for the consular interviews abroad. Okay. If you have been arrested before, it has some kind of crimes, and especially if it's related to drinking, like a DWI, public intoxication, please know this. There are some medical clinics where I guess you could say physician or whoever's doing the uh, clinic for you, they could refer you to what do you call it, like psychologist or something, and then they could share that information and deny your share that information, the notes, to the interviewing officer at the consulate. Okay. Now, again, this is only for consulate processing, so it's very frustrating. Okay, because we've known of someone who had that happen, had like a DWI from like 10 years ago, and then this is from Mexico, and they got him on what we call health ground inadmissibility, specifically behavioral issues, when he had no issues. This is 10 years ago. And just because you had a DWI 10 years ago doesn't mean you have an issue now. So it's very frustrating. So if you have some kind of situation like that, like some kind of drinking related offense, you just need to be ready for that to fight for yourself. Okay. Because no lawyer is going to be there at the medical clinic with you. All right. But of course you can ask your attorney how to prepare for that. There's no magic solution on that, but you need to be ready to just to come to counter that situation. Okay. Because technically the medical clinic has to, send that medical exam and any notes to the visa officer. So it's very important to be cognizant of that. All right. So again, this is not saying for everyone. This is for people who may have a drinking related offense. Okay. Let's see here. So, so that was a tip for folks who are concept processing, but a tip for everyone. Okay, in either situation. Um, okay, is that you need to bring certain documents. For us, we provide a proven checklist. But with that being said, that doesn't mean you need to provide everything as soon as you walk into the room. Don't just dump everything on their desk, okay? That's not how it works. I don't recommend that because just human behavior. Like you wouldn't like it if someone dumps paperwork on your table, right? So be respectful in their space. And now of a other tip behind this, but just have the paperwork ready because they likely won't ask you for all of it, right? For interviews in the United States, for example, you may have updated evidence about your marriage, because there's an expectation that you have continued using a shared bank account, things of that nature. So updated bank statements, for example, or updated credit card not updated, but recent credit card statements, checking account statement, things of that nature. But they don't have that expectation when you're abroad, right? So I've heard of people saying, "Oh, go here's a photo album." Don't do that. They don't want to see your 50,000 photos. Okay, we can have clients provide us a lot of photos too. We only need 10, and we would have filed that originally in the beginning. Okay, um, but that tip is not for now. This tip, what we're trying to cover right now, is preparing for your interview. By the way, I'm happy to answer any questions in this comment section below, or in the what do you call that, chat box, or you're welcome to share your experience. I bet a lot of people are always willing to learn from others, not just from me. Let's see here. So you just want to be mindful of that documentation wise, and just be ready, because you never know when someone says, "Oh, well, I see you got the marriage certificate in here, but do you have the original one?" In fact, the checklist does require you bring the original one or a certified copy, but there could be some other documents that you provided in your original file, and they ask for it again, and it could be frustrating, right? But you just have it ready in case. Like, for example, typically they don't ask. I've never had a situation, fortunately, where they ask for updated pay stubs, but we're always prepare our clients to bring recent pay stubs for on behalf of the sponsor, because you just never know if they have some issue with the affidavit of support, that section of documentation. Um, you just never know. So we just want to make sure that there's no delays based on something that we could have provided before. Now, with that being said, a related tip to that is, even though you don't want to dump all your paperwork onto their desk, you want to make sure at the end of the interview, I always recommend, especially, well, really both scenarios, whether you're abroad or in the States, for example, asking the officer, "Officer, is there any documents that you're requesting?" Right? So you don't have to ask this for your interview necessarily, but that's just something to consider, um, especially if you have a lot of paperwork evidence in your folder and you're wondering, like, I don't know, should I give it to them? Again, don't dump it on their desk, but just politely ask. Okay. So at least you're trying to make effort because you already have it with you. You likely would have it with you. All right, now let's answer uh, let's answer some questions. All right, thank you so much for your patience. Yeah, Tony, way to go, Rangers. In fact, I'm wearing my Texas Ranger shirt right underneath this blue shirt right here. Finally. What did they say? I think they waited 60 plus years. Bella, you have individual court in March. Is that what you're saying? And you have your I-130 approved. Do I think they will give you your green card? What do you mean individual? Because when you say individual, that usually means like a court date. So that's typically not the case. They don't give the green card um, they don't give the green card in court. You still have to go through USCIS for that. But essentially, your individual hearing should be for a marriage case. Okay, but if you don't have an attorney, you definitely should get one. Okay, because the trend right now. Okay, I see you said yes, that's for court. So the trend right now is that I can't guarantee for you, but the trend right now with Department of Homeland Security, government attorneys, is to either administrative close your case, or most likely, because you're married to, I'm assuming, U.S. citizen, is to completely dismiss your case, but you have to ask, okay? The Department of Homeland Security is not going to do it for you. You have to ask. All right. So that can hopefully prevent you from even having a trial, because that's what it is. An individual hearing means a trial, final trial. There's no turning back. So we usually ask as soon as the client hires us, even if the hearing is like 6 months out, we ask as soon as possible, and then we ask again especially if we don't get a response, at least 1 or 2 weeks beforehand. And we've been successful in that, even if it's last minute effort. That's right. But don't leave it up to prayers, okay, Bella? You gotta call a lawyer to help you out. Maybe you have one already. I'm not sure. Grace. Okay, I see questions on TikTok as well, so I'll answer those. And YouTube. Grace. Hello, what's updated I-130 processing time? Happy to share real time. I'm happy to look at USCIS website, but I do believe I have a video, or I'll record one on how to check that. But you would need to know your service center and your receipt date. Okay. So you have and of course you would know who the sponsor is, but if you're asking me on a live show, please provide that information, who your sponsor is, in terms of like U.S. citizen, spouse, or the relationship, essentially. Alrighty. Hopefully that helps. And also if you're abroad or not, or in the States, because that'll give me a pretty good idea. Okay, Hassan, finally getting to your question. You're a U.S. citizen. Okay, you're a U.S. citizen. You need to sponsor your mom. How long is processing time? Okay, that depends if is your mom in the States right now or abroad. But if it's abroad, then in general, it's about a 2-year process as a whole. Because a lot of people, I like to break it down, but a lot of people ask, well, I just want to know the whole thing. Well, it is hard to estimate, but in general, 2 years if your mom is abroad. If your mom's in the States right now, most likely overstay, that's actually okay, because that's still, I mean, the U.S. government won't say it's okay, but if it's immediate relative classification category, then unlawful presence is waived, and there's no need to maintain non-immigrant status. So it's a good thing for immediate relative. All right, OG, you're on. Okay, OG, you're on a K1 visa. You got 9 days to go back home, but your fiance refused to get married. Oh, son of a gun. Sorry to hear that, OG. Well, you got to go back, OG. You got to go back. There's 9 days is not enough time. Like, even if you want to do a investor visa, even if you're, of course, assuming you're a national of a country that's on the list, I mean, you're welcome to give us a call, but you need to have money ready to show that you're investing to start a business. It could be through a franchise, but I don't even know. I would have to check. You have to check with a lawyer to see if that's even possible through a fiance visa. My gut says no. You just have, every time I research this, you have to go back to your country, okay? When you enter America with a fiance visa and your spouse did not agree to marry you. I'm sorry to hear that. Also know this. We've had people ask me this. Can I marry someone else on the same fiance visa? Unfortunately, cannot. Okay. Yeah, the state is not going to stop you, or the county where you get the marriage certificate is not going to stop you. Okay, or the marriage license is not going to stop you. They don't know anything about your immigration status. It's more about immigration. Are you able to get a green card later? And you won't be able to. So sorry to share the bad news. Okay. If resident card is denied, can you reapply? In general, yes, you can. But if you want our advice to take a look, you're welcome to give us a call. Okay, on YouTube Facebook is right up here. The phone number for you on TikTok. Then send us a DM, because I don't know how TikTok works. I don't think we're allowed to share that information on there. So just send us a DM. But yeah, we like to take a look at what the denial reasons are to verify, because I know some people are pretty quick to just refile or to file a motion to reopen, reconsider 290B, and then you wasted your money because you should not have done it that way. Or maybe the spouse is a resident, but because you overstayed your visa, then it's really best that your spouse becomes a citizen. So that's just, there's a lot of different reasons. So that's what we take a look at during a strategy session. All right, Drew Keeper, what's the least months it took for your clients to get a green card? If the person is in the States, I'd say 3 months is one of the shortest. Okay, but that's if the beneficiary foreign national immigrant is in the United States, okay, and the sponsor is a U.S. citizen, okay. But if for some reason you're abroad, then it's just average 2 years total, I would say, okay. And unfortunately, when you're abroad, they don't when you're abroad they don't waive interviews. Not at this moment, unfortunately. Do I know how long perm labor certification takes? Yeah, for regardless of EB3, 2, or whatnot, it generally average takes about 8 months. It's a long time. It's stupid. Like it should not take that long. But I think they argue to attorneys, depending what happens, they call it a cooling effect to us when if we put something on a job description or something in the process says that we're trying to prevent other people from applying a job. Well, in fact, I think the government, Department of Labor, is cooling us off from trying to help facilitate this process because it takes so long. And that's just one of the pieces of the one step of the process. Before that, as you probably know, is the prevailing wage determination, and that takes average 4 to 6 months. So just that right there is 1 year. Those two steps, 1 year minimum. What does it mean when USCIS says cases being actively reviewed? I love that question because it unfortunately confuses people. It misleads people. It doesn't mean shit. Okay, excuse my French. It does not mean anything. Okay, it is not like the Domino's pizza tracker. I am not being sponsored by Domino's, but I would love to if you work for Domino's. Let corporate know. Okay, because my feedback for Domino's pizza tracker is that that's accurate. Okay, you're gonna know when the order has been placed, the pizza's in the oven, the pizza's ready to be picked up or delivered. Okay, it's kind of like Uber in that way, like the tracking system where the car is or Lyft. Okay, it's pretty accurate. But USCIS, State Department, nah, don't expect that to be accurate. I'm very sad to say, but gotta share the real time situation here. Wife's 5 year bar is over. Does she still need a 212 waiver? No, she does not. Fortunately, you can save money on that. I think that's $900 or something. You can save on that. Probably 915. Embassy says we need to wait. Okay, so they may have said embassy needs to wait. Well, just double check on the date on the document that says there's a 5 year bar. um, there might be a situation where your spouse needs to file a 601 application, but you would have known that if he or she had the interview ready, the first one. So it typically needs to have an interview first, then at some point get some kind of pink slip or blue slip says you need to file certain applications. Um, so that kind of give you an idea. All right. So by the way, folks, if you have a situation where you have some kind of 5 year bar, 10 year bar, you don't have to um, you don't actually have to wait that amount of time if you're eligible for a waiver. So that's where you need to file a 601 typically and I-212. But there's a timing issue. You can't file those. Generally speaking, there's no sense in filing it until after the first interview because then that's when they would find you inadmissible officially. Then you can file it after the fact. I know it's stupid. It's a waste of time. They should just let people file it in advance so it could save some time. How long can it take for you to petition your child who's 8 years old as a permanent resident? Um, yeah, I mean that takes a long time. Well, I'm sorry, you said 8 years old, so it's a child's a minor, and assuming you're a US citizen, then you can you can sponsor that child as an immediate relative. So with that being said, that's about, I would say, average, at least a petition itself could take about 12 months. Okay. All right. I was trying to pin Elizabeth comment. I don't know. Okay, hopefully it stays. Okay, I-212 waiver arrived at Seattle field office September 21st. So that's about 2 months ago, and I have yet to cash the check. Is this normal? Let me double check. In general, no, it's not normal. But, we filed the I-212 via a website. So I'm going to try and double check with you if they still allow a check um, on the USCIS page, if it says that, or if they're only specific on paying. Okay, well, they do say you can pay with a money order, personal check, or cashier's check. Uh, hmm. Okay, well, yeah, that's not normal. But did you at least receive, like, it was delivered, right? You have the tracking number, the mailing, like FedEx or USPS. Okay, well, yeah, because you said it arrived. Hmm, that is super frustrating. Yeah, and there you could try to call in, but typically they don't. Field offices don't have like their own customer service line, and even if you call into the national hotline, they're usually, when I've called in about I-212, they're like, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about because you don't have a receipt notice." And that's the problem with I-212s. They don't provide a receipt notice, a receipt number, because they get typically sent. There's a couple scenarios, but they get typically sent to the field office, and the field office does not mail receipt notices. So yeah, keep track of that, your check or however you paid, to see if it's cashed, because that's really the only other way. So keep track of that. Okay, probably once a week, check that out. Okay, you have C14. You for U visa and DACA expires 2024. Should you renew DACA or keep C14 for U visa? Um, yeah, I see what you're saying, because you get deferred action for both. Deferred action meaning you don't have to, if some reason you get transferred to ICE for whatever reason. Deferred action doesn't prevent you being, just hypothetical, prevent you from being transferred to detention center for the worst case scenario, but it could prevent a removal. I don't know. I'm always like in this situation, if you have two possible scenarios, I always recommend renewing it, because who knows what's going to happen to your U visa case, right? Because it's not like officially approved, right? You're talking about the EAD work permit card. So what I recommend is just holding on to it and continue renewing your DACA every 2 years, because when there's a lapse period of DACA, I've heard it's difficult to get it essentially reinstated, renewed. So I just recommend sending that in. I know it's frustrating, but you never know what can happen to the U visa case in the future. All right, and embassy says you need to wait for administrative processing, although her bar is over. That's frustrating too, Ben. Okay, so have you tried to get it scheduled? Is that what you're waiting for? It sounds like you've already done this, but to email the consular embassy to see how your family member could get scheduled, um, and to let them know when the bar even got triggered, like when it started and when it ended, so that way they can feel comfortable. But you should have hopefully already had the first interview, so that you could have got that going. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. By the way, this is a good time to mention, thanks for joining the show. We do offer a strategy session for 15 minutes, no cost to you, where we try to point you in the right direction. Now, there is no obligation to hire us, to authorize us to help you. It would be our pleasure to assist you. But again, there's no obligation. But know that we're here, okay? There could be some scenarios when you call in, you're hoping for a strategy session, but we don't think in certain scenarios, we don't think you may need one yet, quite yet. And it's just because we got a lot of inquiries. So um, we recommend that you still call in anyway, especially for people that have been delayed and just messing with y'all. But some people can say, well, I just filed last month. Right, you just filed last month. That's too early to file mandamus lawsuit, right? We have our own chart to show like when is what is unreasonable, because that's when the U.S. Assistant U.S. Attorney would say, "Okay, we can move forward to contact the State Department or USCIS for you because they agree it's unreasonable timing." But there are some scenarios where they won't agree with it, so we want to give you the proper advice as possible. Which I have to share as a disclaimer here. We are sharing. I love to share legal information here, but ultimately, if you want legal advice for your own specific scenario, we really recommend you give us a call or at least speak to an attorney directly. Okay, one on one, where it's just you and the attorney in the video, not like on TikTok or on social media here. Let's see here. Hmm. Let's see. Okay, on YouTube, Lorraine, good to see you. Hope you're doing well as well. How long after you submit inquiry will you normally get response? I believe it's 30 days. Sometimes it could say 60 days, but it seems like the general and average is 30 days. But the thing is, you might not get the response you're looking for. So keep that in mind. They could say still undergoing active review, still undergoing background check. So I don't know what case your stage is at, but they usually give some kind of generic response. So, but hopefully your case hasn't been pending too long. Okay, hopefully not more than a year. Alex, you're welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. You got your I-130 approved a month ago. Congrats on that. I-485 is still pending. Okay, you marriage based and you filed everything together. We lawyers call that concurrent filing. So yeah, that is strange. I've seen some comments of similar experience. Not a lot, but every once in a while, at least once or twice a week. Yeah, that is strange because typically, if you have an interview, they don't, or if they're intending to give you an interview or require that you go there, then they don't approve the petition or make a decision on the petition until you have the interview. So with that being said, I mean, even though it's been a month or so after that approval notice on the I-130 petition, it's probably, if I have to lean one way or the other, that your interview might be waived. Okay, but maybe they just have a slow system, like I always think, unorganized, inefficient system. So keep checking it at least every couple of weeks or your case status, because you never know. I've heard this before. The notice online says notice mailed, but then you're like, oh man, that status shows like 3 weeks ago. I still haven't received anything. Well, did you move? So hot tip right here, folks. If you plan on moving, especially if you're a lawyer, let them know before you let your other family members know. That's how important we need to know if you move. Because we've had some clients here and there move like literally right before the case was approved. And like, oh shoot. Like we don't, because all those mailing issues, you got to forward your mail with USPS. At the very least, fill out that form, you pay $1 or something. Um, so anyways, just be mindful of your address. Some people forget that. And then you're like, well, I want to blame USCIS. I want to blame the lawyer. Look, it's on you. You got to update your attorney. You got to update USCIS. If you have an attorney, like for us, we do that for you. But you have to tell us you moved, right? And don't tell us when it's last second. You got to tell us as soon as you're about, like, you got to tell us before you sign the lease. You got to tell us before you sign for the mortgage, right? Don't wait on that. It's very important because you may likely have already waited a full year or two, and then you're like, shoot, man, told the attorney too late, told USCIS too late. So that's why some of our own emails at the bottom says, let us know if you moved. Hmm. Okay, Karen. All right, Karen. Your son is married for 5 years already and still no work permit. Um, Thanks for sharing information. I would have follow-up questions. Is your son married to a U.S. citizen? Did your son enter the United States with a visa or not? Because when you enter with a visa and your sponsor is a U.S. citizen, then yes, you can apply for a work permit. But when you say married for 5 years already, I'm not sure how long ago that they filed the paperwork. That's the timing. So just because someone has been married a longer time than most others, that doesn't mean a person will get the work permit sooner. But hopefully, if you do provide the follow up information, then our team will keep track of that. Let's see here. Carlene Camo says USCIS now gives a download copy of notices. Yeah, when you have the online account set up, unfortunately, you have to set that up. Some people forget to do that. Then yeah, you can download from there, like on demand, basically real time. Thankfully, how are y'all doing today? Anyone else happy that the Texas Rangers won the World Series? I'm not even really that much of a baseball fan, to be honest. I prefer basketball and football, and lately soccer. But baseball will be probably fourth on the list. But yeah, this guy still celebrate. I'm from the Dallas area, so let's see here. Lorraine, you say you got DQ'd June 5th. Okay, so I think you're almost to 6 months. So hopefully you get the interview soon. Okay, that's what we notice across the world. It seems to be on average 6 months, but of course, some consulates are much longer, nearly like 12 months. It's frustrating. Okay, great. I see Ben mentioned he got a receipt now for their I-212. It's at the Nebraska Service Center. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's why it's frustrating when it gets sent to the field office. They take a hell of a long time. Velez, Queen, USCS returned your petition asking for 485, though it clearly shows a person is abroad. Okay, so when you say clearly abroad, probably from the addresses, right, on page like 1 or 2, but let me see if I can find it for you. USCIS I-130. So the I-130 has a page. Let me see if I can find what page it is. But there's a page where ask on the right column. I know, don't think I'm weird for remembering this. But it asks you where you want the next step essentially to take place. They don't phrase it that way, of course. They don't phrase it like the way I would do it. Let's see what page it is so you can take a look. Okay, it's page 8. So okay, now I'm going to remember that from now on. Page 8 on the right column of the I-130 says um, the beneficiary. Okay, this actually starts on the left column at the bottom of page 8. The beneficiary is in the United States. So there's two options. On the left column at the bottom says essentially beneficiaries in the United States. Where is the local field office? Again, they could phrase it better. So you had to put that. But since yours is abroad, then it'd be on the right column at the very top, that section, number 60, question number 62. So then that's when you put the consulate or embassy information there. Okay. So who knows? You may have, because USCIS doesn't phrase it the best as I could, like I would have, like I just did. So maybe you essentially selected the wrong box, either 61 or 62. They don't even have a check mark. They should make it simpler for people, for me too. Appreciate it, Lorraine. Thanks for staying tuned. Hopefully you get your interview soon. All right, let's see what you got here, folks. I can probably answer one more question. Then I got to get to a team meeting. All right. Uh, Man, a lot of great questions. I appreciate it. Vilas, you followed up and you said, you said you put everything correctly, but we used AOS Chicago. Could that be the issue? Oh, yeah. You can't. You filled out the wrong spot then. You filled. You sounds like you filled out number 61 on the bottom left. If you sent your sponsors abroad, then you got to put the consular embassy where your spouse or family member lives, essentially. So, but yeah, you can't just put. Let me just make up a. Sorry, you don't know what flag that is. I can't tell, other than United States. But yeah, you have to put the consulate embassy location, the city, essentially, on the top right column. Okay, for the petition. Yikes. So I'd probably resend the petition and have a cover letter saying we already filed a petition, want to update that our prior receipted petition with this receipt number, this question number 61 or 62 was filled out incorrectly. Because if you send in the petition, a new petition, they're going to assume like they're going to reject it because they don't have the filing fee. So we don't want them to assume that there's no other petition there. So you gotta have a cover letter to explain the situation, and hopefully they update the file. That's essentially what you want them to do. Okay. A says, please notice me. Let me see if I can find your question. How long can a U.S. citizen baby stay in the Philippines? Unfortunately, I don't have the answer because we only help with inbound. We don't know about the rules in other countries. Alrighty. Okay. I keep saying only one more question. Let's see. One more. Mimi, I see Mimi. All right, last question. Then I get to my team meeting. So, your application has been this is from Mimi Love has been for a work permit and a green card on a grant of asylum for over 160 days. Okay, so it sounds like you got asylee status. Okay, that's great. Congratulations on that. Pending for 160 days. Yeah, they generally take 3 years. What I noticed, I think yesterday, I think I saw 33 months, 45 based on asylee status that you were granted asylee status. So unfortunately, but the work permit should be sooner. So that's kind of strange. You're still waiting on that, and you said it's been 160 days. But yeah, the green card itself will take 3 years, even though you could file it as soon as you got approved for asylee status. Alrighty. Okay, one more question. One more question. Grace here on YouTube. You're a citizen and you applied for a on February 1st, Texas Service Center. Case is being active reviewed for 62 days. I don't know what you applied for. Is that a petition? 62 days is. Hmm? Oh, it shows active review for 62 days. Yeah, so I mention this every day. Actively review means shit. It means nothing. So even if it says in your online account, something will happen in 1 week, it's a bunch of lies. I think the system is not trying to, USA is not trying to mislead you, but they are, right? So every time I call on the hotline, I just kindly ask them, like, by the way, is this actively review thing like accurate? And they're like, no. They feel bad for all y'all. So just don't believe it, okay? But I have no idea what you applied for, but hopefully it all works out for you, okay? All right. So, anyways, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is John Ting. I obviously practice immigration law here in Houston, Texas. We have a physical office, so if you do want to visit, come hang out. Houston has great cuisine. Since there's a lot of course, millions of immigrants here. You know what? But before you come hang out, you're welcome to give us a call. Phone numbers right here on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. It is getting better. The faster I talk, the better, apparently. Appreciate the tip right there. Appreciate it. What's it called? But yeah, you can schedule time with us, and our CARES team specialists are not attorneys. Keep that in mind. We do train them like to be like attorneys, to think like one, but it's like my mini law school, university, I guess. But they're not attorneys, so they can't answer your legal questions, and that's what the strategy session is for. Okay, we appreciate you. If you don't mind, my marketing tells me, please give us a follow, like the channel, subscribe down below. Appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful day and see y'all tomorrow. Take care now.